Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel. We are in the kitchen again, and so tonight is going to be another episode of Kaitlyn's Shortcut Kitchen, and tonight we're making a meal that I've been making for a few years, and it is one of our go-tos when we need something quick and hearty, especially in the fall. And tonight we're going to be making a Cajun-inspired sausage and sweet potato sheet pan. So again, we're all about shortcuts. So the very first step is line your sheet pan with foil. That way when it's done baking, you can just take your foil and throw it straight in the trash. The oven is on 400. We are going to cut 1 pack of this mild sausage. And obviously, if you're feeding more people, then you could get 2 packs, or if you are only feeding 1 person, then maybe you just use a couple of the links or something. But we like to have a good mix of sausage and sweet potatoes, and there really is nothing else to this meal. So I always just cut all of it. And similar to how we did the sausage in the jambalaya recipe, in the jambalaya video that we did last week, we're just cutting them into like bite-sized pieces, and you can just put those right on your baking sheet. So I usually just slice mine. You can quarter them, but some of the time I'll quarter the big slices, but for the most part, we just are going to cut all of this, and then I will show you how much how much we get out of. There are 5 links in this pack. It did come from Aldi. I bought it because it was on sale. So again, the purpose for our series is to eat out less, eat at home more, and save money in the process. Like I said, there are 5 links here. Sometimes you'll see this recipe where they actually leave the sausage whole, and then it can be cut after it's cooked. I just feel like it gets a little bit more done to my liking when it is already sliced. And then also you can mix it in with the seasonings. So while I'm cutting this, we're going to talk about the rest of the ingredients that you're going to need for this recipe. I use a very few amount of spices or seasoning. When I first started making this recipe, I did use a Cajun seasoning, but I am actually out of Cajun seasoning right now, so we're actually instead just going to do some salt, some pepper, a little bit of oil, and some paprika. And you can do garlic powder or onion powder or whatever you like, but I prefer paprika on my sweet potatoes, and the sausage is a mild sausage, so it has a little bit of a heat anyway. So, but there are lots of different spice combinations that you'll see with this recipe if you try to look it up. And like I said, I call it Cajun inspired because if I have Cajun seasoning, that's what I put on it. You could also do like a seasoned salt. I might try a little bit of that tonight, just to change it up, give it something a little bit different. But what's good about these recipes is because there are so few ingredients, you can do a different combination every time. You can do this same recipe with chicken. I've done it before. You do it just chicken breast, and if you cube it, then you can put that on with like some of the yellow potatoes or the baby round red potatoes, and then do some Italian seasoning and get like an Italian chicken and potatoes. And like I said, it's great because you just put everything on one pan. It all goes in together. And honestly, I typically, when I make these recipes, I don't even stir it. I just put it in and just let it bake, right? The sweet potato is really what we're doing. You're baking it for as long as the sweet potatoes need. But if sometimes the sweet potatoes don't get to that perfectly soft consistency, they're still a little bit firm, but that's just a personal preference, and you can just put it back in. We are almost done cutting our sausage, believe that or not. And like I said, some of the pieces end up being a little bigger than others. That's okay. You can cut them down. You can take the skin off if you want. Sometimes I take it off if it's coming off, but if it's not, the skin, the coating, the casing, whatever, it'll bake with it on, it'll bake with it off, whatever. And then I'm going to show you guys how much sausage that got us and what our pan looks like. And then literally all we're going to do is we're just going to cut the sweet potatoes and just scatter them throughout. And then we'll put the seasoning on all at the same time. Our oven is going to go off in just a few minutes. And a quick prep, I should have done the sweet potatoes first, actually, because the sausage is a little bit easier to cut. And like with the sweet potatoes, you have to peel them and do the whole thing. So I'm going to show you guys how much sausage I got out of that. And then we talked about this before, but cooking and food safety, this was our meat cutting board. So we're going to get a new cutting board for the potatoes. And same with your knife. You always want to use a new knife, especially if you're trying to be extra food safe or extra food cautious. You do want to use a new knife. Clean your hands in between meat and other ingredients just to avoid that cross-contamination that sometimes happens. Okay, so we're going to get our potatoes out now. Let me show you guys. So we have a full pan of sausage. I usually start with 2 larger sized potatoes. Start with that. I peel them and we're going to chop them up and see what that gives us. If we need a third, then we will do a third. All right, so these look like the potatoes of choice today. These ones are obviously a little bit on the smaller side, and then we've got this more medium-sized one. Like I said, we're going to start with these 2, see how that looks, and then we might do this one as well. We want, like, you know, this is a carb. It's also a healthy fat, but we have that protein, so you can't go wrong with extra sweet potatoes. And my husband loves sweet potatoes, so. All right, make sure that you always wash your potatoes. Again, a food safety thing. And then we actually are going to peel these as well. Again, personal preference. The peels are safe to eat if you want to eat your peels. Usually with regular potatoes, I'll leave the peels on. And if I'm baking sweet potatoes, I will leave the peels on. But since we are chopping them, I'm going to go ahead and peel them. So I'm going to peel them. I'm going to dice them up into quarter slices, just little diced up slices. And I'm just going to scatter them amongst the sausage. And I'll show you guys what it looks like when we're all done. I know I said I was going to show you when we're all done, but I'm getting a little bit of a later start with dinner today because I was doing some reading. It's been a long week at work, and I just really wanted like some self-care, me time. So I came home and pretty much I did a couple of chores, and then just sat with my book and made a good dent in it. So watch out for some reviews coming soon. But so I'm getting a little bit of a later start tonight. All in all, this meal does take about 45 to 50 minutes. Depending on if you peel your sweet potatoes, how small you cut everything. So this one is a little bit of a longer one, but it's such easy, like all of the work is in the prep. So we're going to spend like 10 to 15 minutes prepping, and then it does have to bake. I guess I should say the majority of the time is just in the baking. So we're actually going to do some other meal prepping while it's baking. We're going to make a lunch offering, maybe a couple lunch offerings that we can enjoy tomorrow. Definitely one for sure. I'm thinking just one, just because I don't want something to go bad. And if you are more skilled than I am at cutting and peeling, this step might also go a little bit faster. And these are the steps that if you work from home, you could definitely do like the peeling over your lunch, and then they can sit out, or you can cut them, put them in a bowl, and have So there is prep that you can do ahead of time. I did not make that decision today, and I might regret it. But I ate dinner really late last night, and I had a snack when I got home, and I had kind of a later lunch, so. But the good news is we ate breakfast today and lunch, and we had a couple of sweet snacks. So, okay, this potato doesn't look so great, so we're going to set that one off to the side and save that one for last. So I'm going to just show you just one. I usually cut them into slices and then into fourths, and then literally just scatter them around. So for real this time, I'm going to cut these, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Right, so that took us about 5 or so minutes. This is 2 sweet potatoes. I ended up not using that other one. I don't know why it was splotchy like that. I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to do the seasonings. And currently our oil of choice is avocado oil, just because that's what we have open. And we're trying to only use glass bottle oils. And so I'm just going to generously drizzle this over the entire thing. And then we'll just mix it up with our hands. And we're going to pour some seasonings on there, like I said. Okay. Obviously a little bit of salt. My hand is stuck in the salt jar. Try not to use a ton of salt. We're going to do regular black pepper. And no, I don't have any measurements. We're just covering the whole thing, and then we'll mix it up with our hands. And we're going to do paprika, a little bit of garlic powder, and then I'm actually going to try some seasoned salt today. Okay, so you'll notice that all of our seasonings come from Aldi, and that's where actually all of tonight's ingredients came from. And again, I'll say no, I'm not an Aldi partner, but we just like saving money. And I will show you what this looks like before we mix it up. I'm just literally sprinkling a little bit of everything on the whole thing. And we're going to be very light-handed with the seasoned salt because this stuff is very salty. Tried to put it on some fries a couple weeks ago, and whew, too much. Okay, so let me show you guys what that looks like. Okay, you guys can see all those spices and seasonings. And then we're literally just going to finger mix it together. Just move it around on the pan and get all that mixed up. Don't have to do very much, just like one little toss, and then kind of set everything back. Try and get it as flat a layer as possible, because obviously things, if they're stacked up, they're not going to cook all the way through. And the other thing to keep in mind when you're cutting your potatoes is to make them, the smaller the slices of potato, the quicker this meal is going to cook. So today I tried to keep them very thin, and I actually quartered most of them. But if you're in a hurry, you can do halves, especially if you don't have a lot of prep time, but you have a lot of baking time. You can do halves, leave them a little bit thicker slices. You're just going to have to put it in for longer. So we've tossed it, and now we're going to put it in the oven. I usually go about 40 to 45 minutes as a starting point. And then your litmus test for this is the potatoes, and you're just looking to see if they're the consistency that you want them to be, but then also that your sausage is nice and brown. It can have a little bit of a crunchy bit here and there, but we want it brown all the way through. And so you will see me take a piece off and make sure that it's done all the way. But typically with 40 minutes, it's going to get us pretty close to done. Usually 40 to 45, and we're pretty good. Sometimes the potatoes are a little more done than we would want, actually. Same thing, after you're done with your knives, rinse and get a new cutting board. Okay, so that's going to be in the oven for a while. And then, like I said, you just test your potatoes to the texture, the consistency that you like. And then you can always add more of your spices, seasonings, however, whatever you want. Like I said, if you have Cajun seasoning, that's a really good one. That when I use Cajun seasoning, that's all I do is I just put Cajun on the whole thing and mix it up really nice. But I just try to experiment a little bit because we don't have any Cajun right now. Um, and so, yeah, I will show you guys what the final product looks like when it's all done. But I'm going to prep something for my lunch tomorrow. And so I think I'm going to do that in a separate video. So make sure you check that out and look for that. But otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me in the kitchen tonight.